And that's not just it. We also have The View here talking about Dr. Oz supposedly bullying John Fetterman on the election debate. They're doing this whole able body thing. They're going after him. They're bullying him. They shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be treating him like that. Folks, this is one you're definitely not going to want to miss. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. That being said, let's go ahead and roll it.
Last night, John Fetterman and Dr. Oz took the stage in the race for the Pennsylvania seat that could tip the balance of power in the Senate. And Fetterman started by acknowledging his medical issues. Take a look.
I had a stroke. He's never let me forget that. And I might miss some words during this debate, mush two words together, but it knocked me down, but I'm going to keep coming back up.
As a physician, I've been in the room when there's some difficult conversations happening. I don't want the federal government involved with that at all. I want women, doctors, local political leaders, letting the democracy that's always allowed our nation to thrive, to put the best ideas forward so states can decide for themselves.
You said, quote, I don't support fracking at all. So how do you square the two?
I do support fracking, and I support fracking, and I stand and I do support fracking.
Donald Trump has supported you. He has endorsed you. Why won't you fully commit to supporting him in 2024?
Oh, I do. I would support Donald Trump if he decided to run for president.
Oh my gosh. Oh. It's all theatrics, folks. We're going to continue in just one moment here. I just thought it was interesting how John Fetterman was like, I might jumble up some words. Really, John? You folks let me know if this sounds like you're going to be jumbling up your words a little bit. Let's roll it.
As lieutenant governor, you're running for a seat that could decide the balance of power in Washington. What qualifies you to be a U.S. senator? You have 60 seconds.
Hi, good night, everybody. I'm running to serve Pennsylvania. He's running to use Pennsylvania.
What? But he's just there to jumble up a couple words, folks, according to his own words. But yet, hi, good night, everybody. We're kicking the show off, man. What are you talking about? And I'm not trying to hound the guy. He clearly went through a very serious medical issue, meaning a stroke, and then we all hope he recovers from. Nobody's hoping that it stays that way, that this guy stays, cognitively messed up or whatever he's going through, because he won't release his medical records. Everybody wants him to do better, at least from what I've heard of in terms of conservatives, Republicans talking about him. But to make it seem like, I'm just going to mix up a couple words. No, man. You're mixing up more than a couple words. Here's another one, him slurring. You can kind of make out what he's saying, but this is more than just a couple words.
And how can a man, with 10 gigantic mansions, has unwilling to talk about a willing wage for anybody? Imagine a single mom with 2 children, trying to raise with them, realizing making $31,000 a year, $15 an hour. And
okay, so that went on all night, completely getting shellacked. And so when you call him out on the fact that he had a stroke, that he's not doing okay, all of a sudden you're bullying him, even though you're calling it out. For example, if somebody was obese and you want them to get healthy because you're worried about the condition that they're in because they are obese, all of a sudden you're fat shaming somebody. When you're not trying to make a rude comment towards them, it's going to come across that way regardless of however you phrase it, but it's purely subjective. But this is what they're talking about, all of the leftists and progressives. Dr. Oz he's able body shaming him and all these other things. We're calling out the fact that the guy had a stroke. And if he's talking about policy and he's going to be implementing policy, you'd want to make sure that he actually knows what he's talking about. Now, it very well could be the fact that it's not kind of projecting in the way that's going on in his mind, meaning that when he says words, it's coming out wrong, but in his mind, it actually is there and it makes sense, meaning he can probably write down stuff and have it make sense. But when he speaks it with his mouth, because of the stroke, it's just coming off wrong or weird. So he very well could potentially make good policy. I'm going to put air quotes, good policy, because he's a Democrat. We all know how that goes in Democrat-ran cities, speaking of our second segment. But he very well could be all there, but he's not willing to release his medical record, so we don't know. And we're just expected to vote for the guy? Even though he's a Democrat, I would never vote for him, but you get what I'm saying.
So how did it look to you all?
Well, that part where he says this should be a decision between a woman, her medical professional, and then local political officials is where he lost me, because I thought he was going in the right direction. And I think as a doctor, he knows how intimate and important those decisions are. So I find that answer particularly and that stance a bit intellectually dishonest. But it was the way he delivered that got me. Like, he should know that's not going to end well when you start like that.
The Republican Party is running a bunch of ads about showing Fetterman stumbling on things because of the stroke. What kind of a doctor is behind that? Aren't you supposed to do no harm? It's so unempathetic to the guy, you know? And I just want to say that Oz is very slick. He's a...
Really? We're going to go with empathy from the Democrats as well as the Republicans, however side you want to look at it. Do you all remember the Supreme Court hearing on how they treated Brett Kavanaugh? She's going to sit here and have the cojones to tell us, well, what about the empathy? They're just running ads just showing his stroke. Yeah, why would you not capitalize on that? That's a dangerous thing. But they don't look at this. There's a common theme here, folks, with Democrats putting people, running people, whatever you want to term it as, trying to put people in office that aren't all up here. You can look at a main figure of the United States right now. What's his name? Joe Biden. Can't find his Oval Office. Fights with his teleprompter. Slurs his words. Needs a note card. Tell him where to sit and who to talk to. Pre-vetted questions. Falls asleep in interviews. Loses train of thought. Falls up a flight of stairs. Hits a golf ball backwards. I mean, time and time again. You could talk about it. We've done a whole thing with Nancy Pelosi. Not even know where the hell she's at on an interview. So now you got this guy being called out because unfortunately he has a medical condition, which nobody's happy about. But now that we're talking about it because it should be an issue, now you're upset with it. These are the same people, by the way, that because Trump was walking down a ramp slowly because he had leather bottom shoes and he didn't want to slip, all of a sudden it was a medical condition. Or he drank a sip of water, weird. It's a medical condition. It had hit national airwaves and everybody had to talk about it for 2 weeks. But yet you never hear them talking about Joe Biden and his mental condition that's going on. Joy Behar herself was all excited because Joe Biden was like, he was on the show. And yeah, no, he works out every day. Really? Joe Biden works out every day? I don't know.
TV guy. Yeah. Remember that. There's another woman in Arizona, Carrie Lake, also a TV woman. So they're very slick, you know, and Fetterman's kind of like, you know, with the stroke and without the stroke, he's not as slick. But he has ideas and he has governed. Yeah. You know, Oz, and I know Oz. I mean, I've been to his house, and he has a part of him. You know, I called him one time to help with the recommendation for a doctor. He was right there for me. He's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde at this point. I don't know which one is the real Dr. Oz. But voting for the slick person on TV is like voting for me. Don't vote for me for politics. I know how to work on television. That doesn't mean that's the same thing. We had Donald Trump.
Trust me, Joy. Nobody would vote for you, okay? Actually, I'm sure some of them, most of the View audience would probably vote for you because they don't have a damn clue what's going on, but no. Nobody would vote for you. For the love of God, you're worse than Joe Biden almost. That's saying something.
Yeah. Now we have Oz, and now we have this Carrie Lake. Don't be fooled by that.
It's really strange. It was really strange to me that he chose to bully a stroke victim.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, he obviously was bullying him. And, you know, I don't think the people of Pennsylvania or the people in general liked that, because Fetterman raised $1 million after that debate. And I think it takes real courage.
And that just shows you where the Democrat Party's at. Again, we just emphasize this. They're willing to give their money. They're willing to vote people in that are clearly struggling with some sort of mental issue. And again, I'm fully happy to say that I was wrong if he releases his medical records and he can recoup and actually get better. And it's all there, that everything cognitively is working. It's just coming out weird. But it just shows that Democrats are willing to vote. Just some loony binny stuff here, regardless of whoever it is. I mean, you got Joe Biden literally is chauffeured out on a gurney. It might be chauffeured out on a gurney literally in 2024, and they'll still vote for the guy. Even though everything that we've seen shows some massive problems up here, they'll still vote for him. But yeah, no, Bo said he got $1 million in three hours.
To show that you've been knocked down. I think it takes real bravery to allow people to see your weakness, right? And we know that Fetterman's cognitive abilities have not been compromised. It's about...
By the way, in political office, it is not brave for people to see your weakness. I know this is a push from the progressive left. I'm brave. Oh, look at me. I'm boasting. Oh, that's not brave when you're holding political office. That can be very dangerous. Look at Joe Biden. His weakness is up here. And just his whole stature and demeanor of how he walks, how he talks, how he breathes, all that stuff. It's dangerous because you have other enemies around the world, China, Iran, the Taliban, I mean, the litany of other things, looking at, oh, this guy's weak. Why don't I go invade Ukraine? That guy's weak. He's practically dead. Why don't I go invade Taiwan? So it has massive implications. That whole statement of, oh, well, it's brave what he's doing. Come on.
expression
Right.
that has been compromised. Aphasia, exactly. And, this is a smart guy. He got a degree in public policy from Harvard, his master's degree. So this is not a stupid guy. No. This is a guy, as you mentioned, was governor of Pennsylvania, was mayor for many, lieutenant governor, was the mayor for many years, and as well, has just led his life in public service. So why would you vote for the whack doctor?
The quack.
The quack.
He's not really a quack.
And not vote. No. Well, I mean, I was on his show many, many times, but he really rode the line.
He did, for money and power.
Yeah, he really did.
I watched the debate in full, and I had a different takeaway. So I've said this before on the show. I think some of our most consequential and important leaders in history have had disabilities. So as a society, that should not preclude somebody from holding elected office. What I had an issue with Fetterman is he did not seem to have a grasp on his policy positions. And what was hard for me was to differentiate, is that because of the stroke, or does he not have an explanation for doing a 180 on fracking, an issue that is extremely important in Pennsylvania, the second biggest energy producing state in the country? Joe Biden, who we all tease for having gaffes and not always saying things eloquently, I may disagree with his policies, but I've never doubted that he truly knows what he's talking about and he knows what his positions are. Mm-hmm. I didn't just personally walk away from that and think this guy is confident in his positions and ready to lead the state.
Well, that might be because...
How are you going to say that about John Fetterman and then make a totally different distinction by Joe Biden, who I'm willing to say is way worse than John Fetterman? Way worse. I mean, how many clips do you need, lady? By the way, she's supposedly a Republican, but yet doesn't always seem like and says some weird things. You're going to say Joe Biden knows what's going on? How would anybody take you seriously? Come on. Oh, my God.
His position on fracking has twinkled a bit, which happens in that state.
It hasn't twinkled a bit. You literally did a 180. You said that you were against fracking from the beginning, and now that you're running for office, all of a sudden, I'm totally for it. I've always been for it. We have video clips of this stuff. We're not idiots. We can literally see you time and time again saying you're against fracking. You've always been against fracking. It's your own damn words, and now all of a sudden that you're running and you realize you're going to get shellacked if you say that you're against fracking on TV, and everybody's going to see it in predominantly a massive energy-ran state. Now you're going to just do an old switcheroo. How convenient. Typical Democrat Party, folks.
And when you live in that state, you know that that's something you're going to have to come to terms with because it's not going anywhere, So the hard thing for me is to sort of listen to Dr. Oz, who I had a lot of respect for, and if I had a heart problem, I might call him, but then again, maybe not. But Fetterman is very clear. He's about codifying Roe v. Wade. He supports raising the minimum wage, and he's supporting fracking, which, doesn't really make everybody happy, but there are some things that he is very clear on. And it is Pennsylvania, and I know that Dr. Oz doesn't know jack about Pennsylvania.
He's not even from there.
He lives in Jersey.
One thing I did think was a little...
All right, so they're going to go on with this whole stuff. We don't need to sit there and be berated by this, folks. I'm sorry to torture you with the View stuff here. Of course, I'm being facetious. It's not really torture, but it is hard to listen to because it's a lot of asinine statements coming out, and they don't even know what the hell to say. But I love how at one point they loved Dr. Oz, and now that they don't because he's running for office. They loved Donald Trump at the beginning. Now all of a sudden they don't. This is how it works with the Democrats. Anytime somebody goes against their narrative and disagrees with them, now they're racist, sexist, biggest homophobe. Oh, they're icky. Oh, they're carpetbagger. Hey, he's not even from Pennsylvania. You don't have to be from somewhere to know what the hell's going on. And I love this art. It's a consistent argument from the Democrat Party and the progressive left in conjunction with one another. They always say, well, you have to be in somebody else's shoes to really fully understand what's going on. No, you don't. No, you don't. You could say that about literally any issue. You don't have to necessarily go through what somebody else is literally going through to be able to cognitively understand the whole dynamics of what they're going through. You don't have to, you could pick almost any issue. You don't have to go through it, again, to understand what it is. You don't have to live in that state to understand what they're going through, to change certain policies. It's such an asinine argument. I never understood it, but they're going to continue to push it. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.